Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Dave Crenshaw Success Project. This is the show where I'm teaching my children how to be successful through the life stories of others and also some occasional conversations. And that's what this episode is going to be. This is a special episode where I sit down with my children. Say hi, children.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
All right. And we're going to be talking today about entrepreneurship, which has been a big part of my career. And it's also been a big part of the episodes that I've done so far. So let me ask, first of all, everybody say your name and your age as of today.
I'm Stratton. I'm 18.
Yay!
I'm 18.
Just turned 18.
Yep.
I'm Ella, and I'm 14.
I'm Darcy, and I'm 10.
Awesome. The summer is wrapping up, and we're about to head into the new school year here in a couple of weeks. Boo! Oh.
I'm excited and dreading it at the same time.
Well, that's normal. That's to be expected. Okay, so entrepreneurship. Who knows what entrepreneurship means or wants to take a stab at the definition of entrepreneurship?
My guess is it's like someone who starts a business.
Okay, so let's just start with that definition to begin with. Someone who starts a business is sometimes considered as an entrepreneur, but I think that it's more than that. I think that a lot of people start businesses, they start side hustles, and maybe they're a business owner, or maybe they are just self-employed, right? And someone who's self-employed means they're working for themselves, they're going out, they're getting gigs, and trying to make a career doing that. An entrepreneur is a little bit more. It's a little bit something different. An entrepreneur is someone who is building something that lasts, and lasts without them having to be there the whole time. That's right. A big difference, right?
Right.
Because they're being self-employed, going on, let's say, Upwork and getting gigs and having people pay you. That's a nice way to make money. But that's not truly entrepreneurship until you're asking the question, how can I make this so that other people can help me with it? So that other people can run it, so that I can create jobs for people. And also just so I don't just make money, but I make the world a better place. Another type of entrepreneur is a social entrepreneur. A social entrepreneur maybe isn't trying to create a venture or a business, but they are creating a nonprofit, or they're creating something, an organization that they're intending to change the world. So there are lots of, in addition to business entrepreneurs, there are social entrepreneurs. The other thing I would add to it is entrepreneurship can be a career choice. I'm going to choose to be an entrepreneur when I grow up. I'm going to choose to create businesses. And the S that I put on that is very important. Not just a business, but businesses.
Businesses.
Right? I'm going to be someone who creates businesses. I'm going to be someone who develops businesses. But entrepreneurship is also a mindset. You can have an entrepreneurial mindset while working for someone else. And a great example of that is the interview that I did with my friend David Bezant. He has worked for T-Mobile for over 25 years. He didn't necessarily have a career of going out and starting a business, yet he is extremely entrepreneurial. He was entrepreneurial as a sales rep and would look for new and innovative ways to get business. I mentioned this at the dinner table. For instance, he had the job selling phones at Walmart, and he started selling tons of phones, and the people said, "What are you doing? This is fraud. You can't be selling this many." Well, he was entrepreneurial because he realized that during the time, a big chunk of the time he was there at Walmart, no one was coming in to the store. So he wasn't going to make money while he was working. So he opened up the phone book at the time and started calling businesses and started selling to businesses during that time. That is a very, very entrepreneurial thing to do.
Right. I have a question. How does one become an entrepreneur?
It's a great question. And the answer is they decide to be one.
Okay.
Because there's no certification that you
Right.
need. You don't need a degree. In fact, I've worked with and coached many successful entrepreneurs who did horrible in school and yet have been very profitable as entrepreneurs. So part of it is you just decide that you're going to do it. You decide that it's for you. And I'll give you some values in a moment that might help it be more clear if it's for you. But you also can go out and get the knowledge to help you become one. So for instance, you might listen to this podcast, or you might look for YouTube videos, or you might look at my course on LinkedIn Learning, Entrepreneurship, Finding and Testing Your New Business Idea. So you're going to need to be hungry and go out and get more knowledge. In
Right.
fact, that's going to be one of the values that I talk to you about being entrepreneurial.
Okay.
Maybe I should dive into that. So I was thinking about what are the values that both entrepreneurs and employees who have an entrepreneurial mindset share in common. For example, one of them is vision. And we've talked previously about having a vision, right? When we were talking about the result. Being an entrepreneur means being someone who sees something that could be better than what it is right now. Whether that's we could make more sales, or I can make the world a better place. For instance, I interviewed Samantha Pattinson. She's a leader in fashion, but making fashion sustainable. So she's entrepreneurial and also an entrepreneur in coming up with innovative ways because she sees a better future where people are wearing clothes that have less of an impact on the environment.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
And the next value that goes hand in hand with that is challenge. So when I say challenge, I mean an entrepreneur challenges the way things have been done. The entrepreneur says, there could be a better way. There should be a better way. How can I figure out a better way? Most people don't challenge. In fact, I'm going to pause for a second and say, there's a reason why most people aren't entrepreneurs. And it's because they fundamentally view the world different from everyone around them.
Right.
As I talk about this, does anyone come to mind that you've heard of, whether it's in history or in current events, that is entrepreneurial in their mindset? They have a vision of something that can be better, and they challenge the way things have been done.
Well, I know like a lot of it with astronomy is like this model doesn't seem right. Is this actually correct? And so they test that and then they find something different.
Yeah. They question the current reality. And then, it's really interesting you bring that up because there kind of is almost a science to it as well. They test their hypothesis. They say, well, okay, how can we make it better? The only difference, though, is the scientist is typically interested in what is true, right? And they're saying, this can't be true because I'm seeing things that don't let me think that the Earth is the center of the universe, right? And so then they do observation and they do experiments to find out what is true. The only difference is an entrepreneurship wants to fundamentally alter truth. Okay? So they say, well, this is true right now, but what things might I do to change things, to make it different? A polarizing figure is Elon Musk.
I thought you were going to.
Right?
Right.
Whether or not you like him or agree with him, he did do one thing that's extremely entrepreneurial, which was he challenged the status quo about automobiles, right? And cars and how we got places, and said there must be a way to take electrical vehicles and make them sexy, make them interesting, right? Because prior to the Tesla Roadster, an electric car, like when I was growing up, that's this thing that goes really slow. It's really awkward. It can go, and people run tests on it, but no one's ever going to sit in one of them because it wasn't practical.
It's like top speed, like 30 miles per hour. It's a little sad car. Yeah.
So challenging the truth led to a change, and now lots of people are making them, and I'd say arguably better cars than Teslas, but that happened because he challenged things.
Right.
Okay? All right, let's go to the next one. Resourcefulness. And this is a principle of success in general. A lot of people are waiting for a magical pile of money to appear at their feet. And that's why a lot of people buy lottery tickets or they gamble, because it seems like it's a faster way to make the money and they want someone else to rescue them. But a phrase that you're going to hear a lot if you're a true entrepreneur is bootstrapping. You ever heard of that phrase before? Have you ever heard pick yourself up by the bootstraps? It's a really old...
I've heard of it, but I've
heard
never...
of it, but I don't think I actually know what it means.
Yeah, it's an English, maybe even an American metaphor where if you've fallen on the ground, you pick yourself up. You do it on your own. You don't wait for someone else to pick you up. So bootstrapping, or as I'm putting it here, resourcefulness, is saying you're going to get what you need yourself. You're going to look at what you have and say, I have enough right now, and I'm going to leverage whatever it is I have right now. And my career has been built on that. It wasn't that I went out and expected someone to give me a lot of money. I started to look at, okay, well, I don't have an awesome office. I don't have an awesome camera, but I do have this camera, and I can use this camera to start recording videos. Use everything that you have at your disposal to try to make that vision come true. And then as things grow and you start making more money, then you have more resources. And it just keeps building and building because you're making the most with what you have rather than expecting someone else to rescue you. Right. Now, there is a point, I'll just make a side comment. There is a point at which getting a loan, bringing in investors is useful, but that point should come after you've been bootstrapping for a while. So let me pause. So far, I've talked about vision, challenge, and resourcefulness. Any questions about those three?
How do you become more resourceful?
That's a challenging question.
Right. It's complex.
Right. Because part of it assumes that you already are.
Right.
But I think that the first thing that I would do is I would pause and challenge my own thinking anytime I think I need someone else to give me this.
Right.
I thought of it. So we've talked a lot about how when your mom and we were first married, we were eating oatmeal and hot dogs every day.
Oatmeal is probably a stretch for what you guys were eating.
Yeah. Well, I put some jam in my oatmeal.
Oh,
so
okay.
That was kind of, that was living
fancy.
it up.
That's fancy.
But there were moments where it would go in my head, and I called it the rich uncle syndrome. You watch like these old shows, right? These old TV shows and movies, and the rich uncle appears. You know, it's like Oliver. I don't know if you've seen the musical Oliver, but like someone appears, they've got money, they rescue you,
right,
and everything gets better because
Warbucks.
Daddy Warbucks.
Daddy Warbucks. Yeah.
So I would think of that, and anytime that started going in my head, I started to challenge it. And that's hard to do. It's easy to think, oh, someone's going to come along and rescue me. But I started to think, no, I have to do this. I've got to be the one who pulls me out of this. What do I need to do that? I also think just taking an inventory of your resources makes you more resourceful. What I mean by that is you sit down and you write, what do I have? And the first thing that you're going to be looking for, what are my natural gifts, loves, and skills? What are my strengths? What are those things that I've already had through life, people have given me through education, whatever it is? And then, so I'm writing all that out, and I'm asking myself, how can I play to that strength? How can I use that sort of thing? We probably should have a discussion just about strength at some point. I think that would be a good one. Mm-hmm. But I think writing down the inventory of what you have. And to be fair, I feel that most people have far more than they realize.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you all it takes is to go and visit a place where people are really struggling, where they don't have money, they don't have resources, they don't have even parents that support them or families, right? That I've seen in prison a lot. Like they don't have any other perspective. And you start to realize, wait, I really do have quite a bit. If you're listening to this podcast and you have a phone to listen to it on and you're in control of it, you're probably already, richer than half the population of the world.
Right.
So you have a ton of resources already. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. Initiative. This is a really interesting one. Most people wait for someone else to tell them what is the right thing to do. I was just watching a video on YouTube. It was actually this morning about, it was a mob mentality experiments or group psychology.
Right.
And where a person would sit in the room, they'd hear a fire alarm go off and they'd see smoke start coming into the room. Now, what would you do in a situation like that?
Get out.
Get out, right?
Yeah.
And when a person was alone, they would get out.
Right.
But when they were sitting in a room with 8 to 9 other people that were in on the study, and those people just sat there and acted like nothing was going on.
Oh, no.
What did the test subject do?
They just sat.
On average, they would sit in the room for 13 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
13
No,
minutes, which
don't
at that
do
point, if it
that.
had been a real smoke emergency, they would have died from asphyxiation. That's a hard word to say. You'll see the same thing in your job. You'll see the same thing in the world around you. People are waiting for someone else to take the initiative. So an entrepreneur says, I'm going to do this. I don't care what other people are doing. I'm going to do something about it. I see the opportunity. I see the thing. It's my turn.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
And that alone is an entrepreneurial mindset. And you don't have to own a business to take that approach. Okay. Risk tolerance. What do you guys think risk tolerance means?
Means your ability to
Stand it.
Yeah. You can deal with it.
Right.
Right? So if you have risk tolerance, what does that mean?
you're able to withstand taking risks.
Correct.
Yes.
And most people have low risk tolerance. When I've coached entrepreneurs and business owners, one of the things that we talk about is that in general, employees want stability. Stability meaning they want consistent pay. They want, to make sure that their major expenses are taken care of, that their insurance is taken care of. They want less risk. And there's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't. That's a very good thing. And I think that many people should expect that of their employers. But an entrepreneur says, you know what? I'm willing to give up some of that stability. I'm willing to give up some of that, especially in the short term, because I believe in the long term, it's going to pay off even more.
Right.
And if you can't tolerate that risk, you really want to double think your mindset of, I should be an entrepreneur, I should be a business owner. Because you cannot have reward without risk. And the
Right.
greater the risk, the greater the smart risk, typically the greater reward.
Right.
I'm going to really qualify that smart. Because people tolerate risk all the time when they go to a casino. They throw money on a number on the roulette table, they play blackjack, whatever it is, and they're taking a risk and they're getting a reward, but it's not smart risk because they don't understand the statistics involved. An entrepreneur instead is looking at things and saying, you know what? I can do a whole lot better because I have this really great opportunity that I'm going to build, and in the long run, it's going to make me a better career. I have tolerated a lot of risk, a lot more risk than other people would be willing to tolerate, and because of that, it's paid off.
Right.
I mean, I was thinking about, the anxiety center that I've been going to and how, they always ask us to take a risk with our exposures and stuff like that. And I'm, realize I'm willing to take the risk to do things that my body doesn't want me to do and stuff because it's going to pay out later.
And what is the reward when you take those risks? And if those are not familiar, an exposure is doing something that maybe you're uncomfortable with and then just sort of experiencing whatever the effects are afterward, right? So what has been the reward of you taking those risks?
I guess me being able to control my anxiety and to be able to live a happier life.
Yeah, that's a great example. And it's a great example of the entrepreneurial mindset, not necessarily being an entrepreneur, but applying that in your daily life. And I think there are a lot of people listening to this, Darcy, who are dealing with something in their life that's causing them a great deal of pain or anxiety. And because they're not willing to take the risk, what happens to them?
It gets worse.
Yeah, it gets worse. They get stuck where they are. So even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, and even if you're not sure, I want to have an entrepreneurial mindset, that thought of taking a risk to get a reward, a healthy, reasonable risk, is really important. You can't get out of the place that you are right now without taking a little bit of a risk.
Right.
Other questions, Ella, maybe about initiative or risk tolerance?
At what point is the risk too much? How are you supposed to know where's the healthy balance of risk and being able to get a payoff later?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first thing that I would say is the younger you are, the lower the risk is. And what I mean by that is, I had a great mentor who said, right now is the best time for you to fail. And this was in college, so I was in my early 20s. Right now is the best time for you to fail because you're not married, because you don't have children, you don't have responsibilities that other people are depending upon you to succeed. Right? So a lot of people will wait. And then late in their life, they'll go, I've always wanted to be a business owner and I want to do it. Well, now they've got a mortgage. Now they've got a spouse. Now they've got all these things that they have to take responsibility for. So the risk level is much, much higher. The pressure is much higher. One of the things that you're doing right now, Ella, and this is a great illustration of this, what's the thing that you're spending most of your time doing?
Writing.
And how many words have you written right now of your novel?
Like 55,000 after like 2 rewrites.
Yeah. Now, what is the risk for you at this point in your life? If that novel doesn't go anywhere, what happens to you?
I'm disappointed. I wasted 4 years of my life working on this thing. Nothing happened. I didn't learn anything.
Yeah, but no, that's not true. You're going to learn something regardless of what happens in this, right? So it's not a waste of time because every time you devote time to practice, you haven't lost. You're always a winner. Thank you, Bob Ross. Right? So you will still be able to get a job. You won't be in debt because right now you're living at home. You're living off the good graces of me and your mom.
Aha.
Right? So the risk is low the younger you are. The other thing that you want to do is say, what is the worst thing that could happen? Now, this is probably something different than what people expect you to do at the anxiety center. I don't know. Maybe that is something they tell you to consider.
Oh, they always ask us what's the worst that could happen.
Okay.
They also ask what's the best that could happen.
Yeah,
And
that's
you
trying to find
consider
middle
best.
ground.
that's the if and then.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's great. So now we can apply that principle to your question, right? So when you're considering doing something, you consider what's the best that could happen, what's the worst that could happen. And I would say the answer is probably somewhere in between, right? So when you're assessing the risk of, let's say, a new venture or this company that you want to start, I know I do that. I say, what's the best that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? I'm working on right now a project where I'm trying to get my book, The Maker War, which if you're listening to this, you don't know, I've got a book, a sci-fi book under the pen name of DMC Shaw. I'm working on pitching this as a series for TV or an animated series. I'm investing a certain amount of time in it. I'm investing a certain amount of money. So I am taking risk. What's the best that could happen? It can get made, right?
Yeah.
That'd be
And
amazing.
I could, whatever it is, it takes off. What's the worst that could happen?
Nothing happens.
I spent a lot of money. I wasted some time. But beyond that, the risk isn't that bad.
Right.
And I am taking a calculated risk. I know that I can afford to lose X amount of money on this attempted project. So I think that's one thing to do, is just to do that kind of math in your head to assess the risk. All right. Last 2 principles of entrepreneurship. Optimism. This kind of goes with that principle. Not an unhealthy optimism, but reasonable optimism. The belief that things can get better, the belief that there is an opportunity to make the world a better place, to make money from a venture. Entrepreneurs are inherently optimistic. You'd have to have that kind of vision and to take that kind of risk. And then the last one is hungry. You're hungry. You're hungry for knowledge. You're hungry for a better life. You're hungry to make more money, whatever it is. All of those things are all rolled up in the idea that entrepreneurs want more than what they have. Not because they're not happy, because they just inherently like growth.
Right.
And again, that's a different thing from someone who perhaps is employed. Maybe they're not quite as hungry. You can still be a hungry employee. And I still think that no matter what you do in life, you want to have the entrepreneurial mindset, whether or not you actually are entrepreneurs.
Right.
All right, so let's recap that. The principles or values of an entrepreneur: vision, challenge, resourcefulness, initiative, risk tolerance, optimism, being hungry. So, what questions do you have about what we've discussed?
Well, I mean, just kind of like, what's the point? Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? What is the point of this?
And the answer is, I don't know. What do you think the point is? If you can see the point of it, then entrepreneurship is for you. If you don't see the point of it, if you say, I'm comfortable where I am right now, then it isn't for you. I'm going to turn that question back on you, Ella. What's the point? What do you see as being the point of having this kind of mindset?
To be able to change things even when other people aren't going to do it for you.
Okay. Do you like the feeling of that?
Yes.
Okay. A question mark? Is that a question mark or a statement?
Yes.
Yes. Right? Because again, some people don't want to do that. They're more happy with being comfortable and not pushing the status quo.
Right.
And if you're more comfortable with that, then maybe you want to adopt some of these principles, but not all of them.
Right.
What do you think, Darcy? Do you think you want to be entrepreneurial? You're 10 years old. You're starting to figure things out. Do you think that's for you or not for you?
I think it's for me.
Okay. Why?
Because I have been seeing ways. I want to help other people, and I want to kind of, I don't know, make something that can change how people think and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that. I can see that in you. What do you think, Stratton?
Whether I decide to be an entrepreneur towards the business side, right? Whether I start a business or whether I do something else, I feel like that mindset is good because at the very least it is a growth mindset. It helps you become, from what we've talked about, it seems like it helps improve the world around you and it helps you improve yourself. So I think, yeah, even if I didn't adopt all of them, or maybe I would definitely want to at least adopt some of those principles and at least try and put them into action. So
yeah. And I think that's kind of what I'm hoping people get out of this, is to say, how much of this do you want to be a part of your life? And if you do want it to be a part of your life, here are the things that you can make a part of your life, or you can adopt, the principles you adopt. And maybe someone listens and they go, you know what, I like all of those, but risk. All right, we'll adopt 6 out of the 7 that you can. And I want to make one last statement. As someone's listening to this and they're determining how many of these values they want to make a part of their life, or if they want to be a business entrepreneur or a social entrepreneur, I want to be clear. It's great that there are a lot of people who aren't as entrepreneurial, because there are a lot of people who believe in the vision of an entrepreneur, and then they adopt that vision as their own and support the work of the entrepreneur. So that's another thing you can do, is you can say, oh, who's someone who's doing something that I believe in, or is creating an exciting new company that I want to be a part of? You can be employed by that person and help make that vision a reality. And that also is an entrepreneurial thing to do without necessarily assuming all the risk.
Right.
All right. Well, thanks so much, kids, for taking the time to do this. So we always have to wrap up with an action. What's one action that you're going to take as a result of this discussion today? Take a moment and think about that. What's one thing you're going to do this week to make this discussion a part of your life?
Well, since I am very, very, very close to finishing this draft, I think I'm going to force myself to send it to someone to read.
Nice.
Maybe my creative writing teacher, or putting it on a little writing classroom that we created.
And which of the values of entrepreneurship does that tie into?
Risk.
Risk. Taking a little bit of risk of criticism, whatever it is you're going to feel, but you'll get a nice reward for that, right? You get feedback, you get the feeling of completion, all those things. Awesome. All right.
So I'm going to bring up writing too. I am in a very different position than Ella. Instead of having a teeny bit to write, that's all I've written. And I have decided a couple days ago, and I'm going to put it into action today or this following week. I'm going to take time out of my day to actually write.
Woo!
Not procrastinate. Yay!
It's a good story, okay?
Thanks. I'm going to take time out of my day to do that and actually do it. So that's me taking initiative. That's also me challenging myself, because not doing anything and writing when I feel like it, that's pretty easy. And so I feel like it's going to be a challenge for me to try and do that and squeeze that in my schedule.
Yes.
So I'm going to do that.
Yeah. to accomplish something you've never accomplished before, you must do things that you've never done before. Right. Okay, Darcy, what action will you take this week?
I guess I can probably also writing. I want to try and get my book published soon, but I know it's going to take a lot of hard. And
okay, so what's one specific thing that you'll do differently than you've been doing before to make that happen?
Write a lot more often.
Okay. Nice. Put a little bit more time in your day or something to make it happen.
Wait, what are you doing?
What am I doing? Well, I'm in the middle of that risk that I talked about.
Right.
Working on the. So, for me, it's hunger, being excited, and vision. Like having that vision of, hey, this could happen, and seeing what turns out of it.
Right.
Might not happen. Probably won't. I'm okay with that too.
Mm-hmm.
But that isn't going to stop me from putting in the time, money, and effort to see if we can pitch this to a couple of studios and see what comes out of it.
Be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, kids, for being a part of this. And thank you for listening. And remember, choose one action that you can take from this and do it today or do it tomorrow. But do not wait a week. Do not wait a month. Make it part of your life. Thank you very much for listening. Everybody say goodbye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Dave Crenshaw Success Project, hosted by my dad, Dave Crenshaw, and produced by Invaluable Incorporated. Sound editing was done by my brother, Stratton Crenshaw. Research and assistant production by Victoria Bedez. Voiceover by me, Darcy Crenshaw. And the music is by Ryan Brady via Pond 5 licensing. Please subscribe to the Dave Crenshaw Success Project on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to get your podcasts. And please don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. See you next time.